Happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the gorgeous day yesterday and were able to get outside. My boys spent most of the day fishing in our back pond, and they caught 8 fish, which was awesome. So I hope that you were able to enjoy that sunshine. I know today's kind of rainy and cold, so it's a nice day to kind of stay in and get caught up on things. For us, we will be moving into the last part of Act 4. Act 4 is actually pretty short. Scenes 1 and 2 are also super short. Scene 1 was focusing on that new triumvirate. Remember, it's been 2 years since the death of Caesar, so Antony, Octavius, and Lepidus have joined together in a ruling power of 3. And they are basically like building up this crazy big army that is so strong, and they're getting ready. The battle is like, you can kind of feel the suspense if you're reading the text, like it's there. And you're gonna see that here in scene 3. It shifts in scene 2 to another really short scene between Brutus and Cassius. They are emotional, they are stressed out. They've also been building their army. They've been pretty much like let out of Rome, like they know they can't go back because like people are after them. They're trying to kind of find their way and building up their army and getting ready to fight. So they're stressed. That stress and emotion causes them to kind of get into this little argument. So they start arguing, but they decide that they should not argue in front of their soldiers, so they move inside the tent, and that's where scene 3 starts. Good move on their part. No, they don't want to be arguing in front of their soldiers. The Brutus and Cassius are leaders, so their soldiers would be a little bit, probably not be super confident in battle if their leaders are right there arguing about things. So at that point, you start to see the dialogue back and forth between Cassius and Brutus. So it's just that. It's a lot of dialogue. It's an emotional word exchange between the two of them. You wronged me. No, you wronged me. No, you took bribes. No, you took bribes. I would never do that. And you never stood up to Caesar, and Caesar wouldn't treat me like this. And I killed Caesar for the right reasons, for the good of Rome, and you didn't. And just back and forth and back and forth. And it's emotional. There's some truth to what they're saying. But Shakespeare's doing this to kind of show the anxiety, the stress and everything that's going on, kind of leading up to that suspenseful battle that we're getting ready to take on in Act 5. So they go through that, and Cassius gets to the point where he's so emotional and so just like into their conversation that he just like whips out his dagger, and he's like, kill me now, like with the same sword, the same dagger that killed Caesar. If you're gonna do it, I'd be honored to die right now. Just do it. We're not getting along. And Brutus, that's when he starts to calm down, and he's like, look, like he realizes like, you're my brother. Brutus, we've talked a little bit about, he's what we call a stoic. So he's not super emotional, where Cassius is your more emotional, irrational person. So he calms himself down, and he's like, no, like we shouldn't do this. I'm not gonna kill you. You're my best friend. I need you. We're getting ready for battle. So yeah, like they hug it out, they're best friends again, and they move forward. And that's that. Like you don't want to linger anymore with that. They've made up, everything's good. Right after that, Brutus tells Cassius some crazy big news. So he's like, I'm really sorry for being a little bit more emotional than normal. Portia died. Okay, so here you are, like the leader of this crazy big army. You just got to fight with your best friend, and then you drop the news that you had also found out that Portia died. So he is going through a lot. It shows the strength of him as a character. He does have his flaws, but one thing is that he takes on a lot of emotional stress during this play. So Portia has killed herself. She had swallowed hot coals, so that is not a lovely way to go. But remember, it was suicide in their culture. It doesn't have the stigma that you might see surrounding it today in our culture and our society. There were times when suicide was viewed as a very honorable act. I'm not saying that specifically with Portia, and we would dive into that a little bit more, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that in Act 5. Dying in battle, things like that, that's where you're going to see the honorable act of suicide come into play a little bit more. But this is just kind of a stepping stone for that, just to start thinking about it. So, there's just a lot going on. So at that time, Shakespeare kind of switches gears. He needs that intense scene to kind of die down. And so a few messengers enter, and they're bringing news, and the news is that 100 senators have died. So Antony and Octavius and Lepidus mean business. Like they are out for blood and for revenge. And they know Brutus and Cassius are like, okay, it's time. Like they're coming after us. We've got to get our army in gear here. Let's go. So this is where you see, if you go all the way back to Act 2 and we saw the power switch where Brutus took over, this happens again. Brutus staying in charge. He's been in charge since that point, since he joined. And Cassius, even though he started this, he's been kind of in the back seat. So they're discussing battle strategy, right? And Brutus is like, no, we need to attack now. We need to go to Philippi. We don't want to sit back and wait. We need a surprise attack. Cassius thinks it's best that they kind of sit and wait so that they're not surprised and that they can kind of have some time to group together and get ready. And Brutus is not like that idea. So if you look back at the text, they go into some more detail about that. But the biggest point is that they go with Brutus's decision, right? So he wins out over Cassius, like always, since he's joined, and they are going to attack Antony and Octavius at Philippi, and that's where Act 5 is going to start. The very end of Act 4 is, it seems kind of small and insignificant in a way, because it's kind of this dreamlike hallucination realization of the ghost of Caesar. There's a lot of different ideas surrounding it, but it is super important. So at the very end, Brutus is trying to sleep. He's trying to get a good night's rest before battle, and the ghost of Caesar appears. I told you weren't gonna just end with Caesar dying in Act 3. He will continue to kind of come up in certain ways, whether it's mention of the dagger or his death, and now it's going to be the ghost of Caesar. So he comes in and Brutus is trying to sleep and he sees him and he's like, the ghost says, I will see you at Philippi. Huge foreshadowing moment, meaning I, Death, the ghost of Caesar, will see you, Brutus, at Philippi, foreshadowing Brutus's death. Now, there's, is it true? Is it a true hallucination? Is it a dream-like? That's one of the questions that you're going to be answering tomorrow. So I would advise you to take a look back at that section and try to find some textual evidence of whether or not you feel like it is a very specific hallucination, something more real or dream-like in that time. There is some key evidence, like no one else sees this, it's just Brutus. So look at your stage directions and what the actual text is saying, but big foreshadowing moment. It almost functions just like Calpurnia's dream, and multiple people telling Caesar like, hey, you're going to die. Well, Brutus, this is your warning. Are you going to listen to it? Or are you going to turn out like Caesar at the Battle of Philippi? I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. So I hope that helps with Act 4. I know, again, it was not the most interesting act in any way. There are some very key points with Portia's death and the battle getting ready, but it's kind of like a transitioning act leading into Act 5, which is going to contain a lot of drama and death and anything and everything in between. So get ready for Act 5. All right, I'm going to post an assignment tomorrow. You have tomorrow and Friday to work on it. And I think that's it. So I hope you guys are all well. You're almost done. The finish line is so close. Hang in there. I'm proud of you. Thanks for watching my videos, and we'll see you later.